And there's one other one that I just wanted to show you before we get to the lesson, and that's where we can get the hrefs and select the href value of an element. So for instance, if this was going to Google, we could get that information. We can call it links. So we'll get all of the elements using query selector. So refresh. So now when we look at links, we've got a node list. So we've got all of the elements there. Take links, and we're going to loop through all of the available elements that we've selected in the node list and output them as a value of L. Let's make sure that we do have them in the console. So we refresh. We've got all of those values. So let's take a look through, and we're going to select the attribute. We're going to get the attribute, and the attribute that we're going to get is the href. See, we've got a bunch of them just have hashes, and there's the one with Google. So we can also update and we can set attribute as well. So if we want to set all of the hrefs, whatever website we want, whatever our favorite website is. So now when we go in here, all of these are going to link out to a website that we specified. So it'll update the link there. So we did have a lesson challenge. And the lesson challenge was to loop through all of the list items and update the text content within those list items. So we'll do that now. So we've got our list items using document, query selector all. We're going to select all of the list items that are available on the page, and then list items using for each again. Let's loop through all of the list items. We can also return back the index because we're going to need that to update the ID. So to update the ID of the item, because we've got it within the list. So just as we saw over here, L, we've got the element as item, and we can update the ID to be equal to Li plus whatever the count is. And also let's update the text content of each one of the items of the list. So we can have list item, and we'll just add in that count to it, so that will just return back the index and output the item get attribute. We're going to output all of the class from each one of the elements into the console. So let's try that and refresh. So you can see we're looping through all of the list items. We've updated the values of the list items, so we've actually overwritten the anchors because there's no more available, so we've overwritten those with the list items, but this was the challenge. So we've given them list item ID, and when we check out the HTML, when we do an inspect on the HTML, you can see that they've all been assigned IDs, and we're also outputting their classes into the console. So the ones that do have class, they get output, and then the ones that don't just have null in there, so we're not actually outputting them into the console. So if we can also use a condition as well. So we can check to see if this exists, and only if the class exists. If it's not null, then we output into the console. So you can update the code as well to do that. So I know we covered quite a bit in this lesson, so do try this out. And coming up next, I'm going to show you more that you can do with element classes.